Hello, Music Multiverse listeners. Can you believe it? 50 years old. Seems like it was yesterday. For some of us, it was. And some of us, it was even longer than that before. The average home price, $38,000. Now, 417,000.
People are killing me.
1974 wins. Rubik's Cube was invented. What was invented?
Yay!
What was invented in this year, or sort of in this year? Luna by Boom Home Medical, a bedside urinal with serious style. Let's give the win to 1974. What do you say? Yeah, probably. Stephen King releases Carrie. Now he's doing a You Like It Darker 12 stories coming next month. I think 1974 wins again. The $6 million Man premiered, starring Lee Majors.
Yay.
That's probably
Yeah, I
what
like
minimum
that show.
wage is going to be if the Dinkle Dories don't fix this shit. So 1974 wins again. It's a knockout year. Besides some politics and oil, that seems about the same. But how was it in music? Tonight, the panelists' favorite show, favorite albums from 1974. Our panelists are about to share them, but before we allow them to, just letting you know, if you subscribe today, you'll be paying the same price as water in 1974. Free. You'll get fast, easy access to all our content, just like our current subscribers who know it by now. It's time to get on with the show. Mark, shut up. So on the panel tonight, who's in the strawberry patch with Sally? We all know it was the Grateful Dude.
It was his girlfriend for sure.
That fell on deaf ears. She's the queen of Album Review Saturday. Damn, Deb Armitage Hicks Maloney. The old soul music lover of 74 has joined us to reincarnate, perhaps. I don't know. He wasn't even born yet. Everett James.
Yeah.
Back from his long hiatus. That's right.
Hi.
He's been in action.
I'm back. I'll try to show up more
Back.
in the future.
Like a bad
It's
penny.
only rock and roll, but he likes it. Yes, he does. Jeff Crichton has joined us. You knew that was you, didn't you? I knew it. And, I had some other great ones. One was the Turkish invasion of Cyprus occurred from the rear, and Jeff Young thought Greece would help. But he's not joined us tonight. Oh, wait a minute.
He did that on
I
purpose.
just got the text. So we'll pass on that joke. Anyway, 50 years. Here we go. Right? Everybody's good. We're
Yeah.
Starting to remember my hiatus.
I don't want to see it.
That joke is scarring me.
All right, so we'll go around each one. Do your number 5, do your number 4, do your number 3. We'll go around each time. So let's see. Let's start with Everett.
Okay, so my number 1 is an album that I actually did, I think, on one of my last ones, which was a while ago now, because it's been a minute. And that is the Eagles' 1974 album, Across the Border. I like the Eagles. They're fun. It's not one of my favorite of their albums, not albums, but albums. But I mean, it's the Eagles. None of them, in my opinion, are, like burn it with fire and nail it up to a wall kind of bad. So, I mean, this is one that I really liked. It's got some fun. I mean, like, Already Gone is like probably one of my top 10 favorite songs. So, I mean, overall, it's a fun song, and I didn't realize what year it came out, but I do now. So
There you go.
Great production for 1974 too. Which is one of my themes in here is that great album, bad production. Let's go to the Grateful Dude. He's up next.
It sounds great, but it doesn't sound great.
Got it.
Does both at the same time.
Okay, you gave me an interesting album here. I was 20 years old in 1974, so I was in the heyday of my musical prowess. I did a song, a album by the band, which was also by Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan was very heavily involved in this album. It's, I'm not going to say their best album. There are albums I like better, but it was when I was 20 years old, I was in love with this album, completely in love, and I remember that, and I've held on to it. I actually have a copy of this original album from '74.
Did we say the name of the album? I missed it.
No,
Yeah, Before the Flood.
No, you didn't
Oh.
say it.
the live
Okay.
album.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah, it's the band and Dylan together.
yeah.
So I don't usually do compilation albums with others, but this was such a good album. And the funny thing about it is, if you listen to the album, which I did just this morning again, that you really don't know Dylan's in it until a few songs in, and then his nasally himself comes through. So
Yeah, he's
But,
kind of taking a back seat in some of it. Yeah.
yeah, major, but he did a lot of writing on it. It's one of the band's most eclectic albums, I would think.
Deb.
My number now, I didn't do a lot of research on these to give any like interesting facts and tips and quips like I normally do. I thought we were gonna go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 all in a group,
Mhm.
but I can tell you why I picked them. My five are very personal, nostalgic, not the greatest of all time, but I rank them not by how well I think the rest of you think they are production wise, but basically my number 5 is the one that I started listening to later in life, and one will be I was listening to it when it came out.
Nice.
So number 5 is Robin Trower, Bridge of Sighs.
Yeah.
I just I I don't know. There's nothing like that album is just so unique, and the sound is unmistakable.
Yeah.
It's like name that tune in one note type of thing. I know any of those songs as soon as they start. So it's one that I've come back to. I probably started listening to that in the early 80s, after I got introduced to more of that kind of music instead of the poppy stuff that when you're, 11, 12 years old. But it's an album that I could listen to every day and not get sick of it. So that's my number 5.
Class.
Yeah. Great record. Definitely could be on lists here. I'm sure. It could have been, or is, or maybe. Who knows? Mr.
There's still
Crichton,
time.
what do you?
Okay, so am I starting at number 50?
Yeah, he's got one of those lists like Santa's
Here's the
bad
list. Here's the list right here. Okay, so
It just keeps going. You can actually see it where I am on the other side. It's like, oh, wow.
so what I'm doing, I'm not taking the entire year, because
Okay.
what I'm doing is the albums we're in April here, so I'm only covering albums that came out the first quarter of the year.
That's awesome.
So,
Yeah.
which if I did the whole year, we'd be here till tomorrow. So my first record, my first number 5 album is a classic country album. So was not on that
Okay.
country show, but this one definitely
Right.
would have been on it. It's Graham Parsons' Grievous Angel album.
Okay. Yeah.
Which featured Emmylou Harris singing with Graham Parsons pretty much throughout the whole album. There's so many really good songs on this record, and like Love Hurts, In My Hour of Darkness. Graham Parsons, for those that don't know, he's the guy that co-wrote Wild Horses with Mick and Keith.
Oh, I love that song.
And in fact, when he was leading the Flying Burrito Brothers, they actually recorded Wild Horses before the Stones did. But so my number 5 record is 5 album is Grievous Angel by Graham Parsons. It came out in March of '74.
Yeah. that was one of the albums I listened to during the country thing, and just Emmylou Harris when she hits when she's on an album, it's
Yeah.
she's maybe the best accompanied vocalist who can for male against male ever. ever.
Well, yeah, she's my favorite female artist ever. And I was blessed enough. I was able to work with her too over my career. So, and she's
Nice. Well, even
fantastic.
were you still there with Wrecking Ball or no?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that record. Love that record. And what she did stuff with Knopfler.
Oh yeah. Oh, the record she did with Mark Knopfler was
Yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah.
The
Like you said, anybody.
the two trio albums that she did with Linda Ronstadt and Dolly were fantastic.
Now,
And then she even did a duo record with Linda Ronstadt that was fantastic. It's
all right, now those I got to look up. I did not.
Yeah.
I didn't go there. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so 1974 for me. There are a lot of just monumental amounts of great, well, really good records. And to try to go through all of them and rehash them, I listened to a bunch of them that I hadn't listened to in a long time. One of them, I didn't start listening to this album until last year when someone mentioned this album on a show. I'd never heard of it. I don't even gravitate to this artist. I probably should, considering the music junkie that I am. But the man
Yeah.
has ridiculous shitloads of albums that I'm just not going to go down that rabbit hole buying all of his stuff, especially the amount of live albums and whatever. But I'm talking about Frank Zappa and Apostrophe.
Mm-hmm.
I fell in love with that record the minute I put it on, and Mr. Grateful Dude had it on. I want to say it was What's in My Ear.
Yep.
And I was like, wow, I got to check this album out. And I did on a ride with the girls to one of the lacrosse tournaments. And of course, I had to put headphones on because they said no. Which I understand. You don't want to listen to dad's music, but this is my dad's music. Frank Zappa, and that was just from the minute it started, it was avant-garde, but it was controlled avant-garde, a little spastic here and there. Got some jazz, you got your funk, you got there's nothing that isn't on. I think the Easter Bunny's on it too. But
Oh, really?
yeah, great record, great recommendation, and stuck with me to this day, even going through all the list of all these bands and going, chow, listen to that one. But I listened to it and I went, God, the production is bad. Bad. There are some great records on here that the production is terrible. And the remaster doesn't sound any better to me. So Frank Zappa, Apostrophe, over to Everett.
Cool.
All right. For my number 2, I had a album that has a very famous song off of it that most kids my age know. From Leonard Skinner, it's their Second Helpings album.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody knows Sweet Home Alabama. I mean, it's a joke these days. I mean, I still like the song, but I mean, whenever someone says, basically all you get is a bunch of incense jokes when you do Sweet Home Alabama. I mean, honestly,
only at your parties.
Yeah.
yeah, sure, but still. So that's the one I'm gonna have. I haven't
Nice.
listened to it too many times before, but I mean, Call Me the Breeze is also a fun one on that one. You know, just kind of snappy. Got Ballad of Curslow, which I've heard a time or two before. That one's kind of fun, but you know, it's Leonard Skinner. They're just overall fun to listen to. They're kind of in that country rock that
Southern rock,
kind of get in,
baby.
like,
Southern rock.
yeah, they're
Southern
rock.
rock.
Yeah, like, you know, like but
It
they're like
was
very much in the rock.
so that song was actually their answer to Neil Young's Alabama and
Southern Man.
Southern Man. Yeah, Southern
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like the Sweet Home Alabama song because my great uncle's from Alabama, and in the song they mention Muscle Shoals.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so in my college class I took this last semester, they brought up Muscle Shoals, and I almost died of, oh my god, I know that. I know where that's. I've heard that. And so, you know,
famous in music
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
yeah.
is.
my great uncle came out to visit us with, you know, cousins and whatnot. A couple months later, and you know, Southern guy, long Southern drawl, really fun to listen to. Sometimes you just want to speed him up 2 times though. And I was like, I asked him about Muscle Shoals, and like 2 hours later, we're still out there. And
Hey,
I mean,
speaking of that, let's go to Jeff.
yeah. So it's just it's
Yeah.
kind of one of those that's got some fun memories behind it.
They're a
Good.
good band.
I like it.
Yep.
Okay,
Grapefruit.
dokie, dokie,
Chef.
dokie. Well, my number 4 album is my favorite female singer by far. I loved this album when it came out. I still like this album. I listened to it 3 or 4 times over the last week because not only did I was trying to remember all of it, but I wanted to remember how good it was. I'm doing Heart Like a Wheel, Linda Ronstadt.
Nice. I
Absolutely
almost picked that
fabulous
one. I
album.
almost picked that one. I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah, I love this album. Again, this is another album that I had bought in '74 and I still own. It was her first #1 album on Billboard.
Oh, okay. Makes sense.
Yep.
Yep.
She did a cover of Dee Dee Warwick's "You're No Good," and
Yeah.
that shot her
You're no
this
good,
album
you're no
all the
good,
way
you're
up.
no good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It had a lot of good albums, a lot of good songs on it. It was stayed on #1 longer than any one of her other albums, and it's I put this album in the terms of classics. This is a classic album, and I believe in my heart this is her best album she ever produced.
Yeah.
So, but that's
She
That's
got
for-
a lot of discussion on the country show.
oh yeah.
Right?
Oh, she did.
Yeah.
She
it
was
Oh,
good.
never
yeah, I-
named, but we went.
Yeah, no one picked
Sorry,
an album from
Linda.
her, but she was
Sorry,
named
Linda.
like 4 different times as songwriter here,
Well-
producer there. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, she's a very, very talented lady. I've seen her 4 times. Yeah, 4 times. So, yeah, really, really good.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, my turn. This album was probably the first concept album I ever listened to. So it kind of stuck with me, and it's been the concept album that I judge all concept albums against. The band disappointed me at one point when some particular person decided to leave the band, but he's done okay afterwards.
I got a feeling this
yeah,
is
he-
the album that actually started all that too.
Yes,
Yep.
it did. It's Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, Genesis.
Mhm.
Record.
It is timeless to me anyway. It's, all the musicians at that time in that band, amazing, and I love to listen to anything that they do. And when you listen to some of these songs and you're an impressionable young teenager, and they start talking about such things as the liquid gets congealed and seeps through the cracks, you just don't know what that's all about, and your imagination runs wild. So look at poor Everett. Everett's like, I can't be on this show anymore. But that has always kind of stuck with me, so to say. But yeah, Genesis. That's my number 4. It would have been
Yeah.
further up, but like I told you, I have a method to my madness, madness to my method of why I ranked them the way I did. So
And that tour played at the Old Century Theater here, and it was fantastic.
Yeah.
oh my God, really?
Oh
That's
my gosh. Yeah.
crazy.
Mhm.
I was too young to be let in.
Me too.
Bring in a
All right.
Who's
So
next?
Mr. Crichton is next.
Number 4. And
Uh-oh.
I was going back and forth with what I was gonna, because I left Steely Dan Pretzel Logic off this top 5. Where I could have put that on there,
That was on my list too.
easily I could have put that on there.
Good album.
I've
it
got-
may show up.
and there's
It
a
may
couple
show up
other,
in somebody's
like-
list soon.
like the
Yeah, it may show up.
hot
Yeah, I
tuna,
think so.
the Hot Tuna album, the Phosphorescent Rat. that's another one I left out. And these are all albums that were great that came out in the first quarter. Even the Doobies, what were once Vices.
Yeah.
Record. That was a good record. But I'm going with the first album by Richard and Linda Thompson.
Oh, the
Yeah.
one with the scratches on the
I want to see the
mirror or
bright.
whatever.
Yeah, I want to see the bright lights tonight.
Yeah.
Fantastic record. Richard still makes music, tours. Same thing with Linda, although she's not as proficient as her ex-husband. Linda actually has an album coming out in a couple months, but it was the first album that the two of them did together. They only did a few until their marriage ended, and that was it for that duet. But
Did Daryl Hannah break them up?
yeah, it's like and it's like this album's like a lost masterpiece of Celtic folk and rock music, and it's just a brilliant record from
I
beginning to
don't
end.
know who these people are.
Is it all? It's all acoustic, right?
You go if you listen to this album, you'll get hooked. Richard actually was in a Celtic folk band called Fairport Convention in the late 60s and early part of the 70s. And then when that band broke up, he started doing his own thing. Before this record, he made an album on his own that his first solo record, which didn't do anything. But this one, I Want to See the Bright Lights Tonight. It's a must listen.
Cool.
That's
All right,
my
I
number
wrote it.
four.
I
Great.
wrote
It's
it
a
down.
great
I got
album.
it on my list.
That's
Yeah,
my
it
number.
is. It's all acoustic, right?
Pardon me?
Is it all acoustic?
No.
No, then I have another album of his that's all acoustic. Okay. It's a very good guitar player.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
sure is.
Oh yeah, it's me. Haha.
Yeah, it's your turn.
Well, this one's not in. Okay, so let me break it down for you in rock wise. Okay, so there's great rock records in '74, and they just don't sound good, and I don't know why. But this one band, when they make a record, somehow they could do it in the basement, they could do it in the street corner. Doesn't matter. Somehow they get their production right every time. Maybe the songs aren't as clever or well constructed as the other bands that could have been mentioned on this list. That one of them has a very big following to and love, and maybe some way they've been disrespected because they're not as considered as big as these guys. But the Rolling Stones, it's only rock and roll, but I like it. The songs are not. These are not the songs that you're going to hear played at the concert. They're
Right.
not. They're not on the list on this one.
For good reason.
But they're just as. But then again, Exile on Main Street. There's the great songs on that one don't get played at the show either usually. So this is
Good choice.
is vintage, well produced.
Yep.
And I'm not going to mention the other bands yet because I have a feeling that they might get mentioned, so I don't want to steal anybody.
Okay.
But that was my problem. I would go, God, but they didn't start sounding good till this album. You know, where
Right.
somebody said, wait a minute, why are you so tinty? Why does the cowbell sound like it was done in a toilet? You
The
know,
cowbell.
It was.
It was probably.
It was.
So
Yeah.
I'll pass.
That was
so
a time we
my-
didn't need more cowbell.
Yes, no
That's
more. Hey,
exactly
look at that.
right. Good job.
Boy knows Christopher Walken. Back to you then, Everett.
All right. So this is the first one that kind of stands on its own. The next two are kind of a double parter, but this one is Queen's Sheer Attack of the Heart. Sheer Heart Attack. I don't
Heart
know why I
attack.
sheer.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these albums I hadn't really I listened to more songs, and then if I like a few of the songs on the album, I then go listen to the album just because
Mhm.
the way I
Yep.
listen. So I haven't listened to too many of the songs on this. I've gone through it a time or two, but I mean, it's Queen. It's one of their one of their first albums. I mean, second
Maybe
album,
the
Second.
third. I think it was the
Third.
second or third.
yeah, because I mean,
Yeah,
you had
because the second was
Queen-
named two, right? Wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, the second one was
something
named
like
too. So yeah,
but I mean,
exactly.
like it's the beginnings. It's the first album I would say where you really start to get Queen as you would know it, kind of like with your. It's like the beginning, you know. It's like one of those where you can be like, okay, here's where we started with this album, and then here we are at a Night at the Opera. you know,
Mhm.
one of
Got
them is better than the other, but it's still fun to go, this is where we started and that's where we are now.
Mhm.
So
And
Yeah.
I don't
I
have
love
much to
that.
say
I
about
love
that
that
one.
choice.
All right.
I don't have much
Let
to
me
say
just say I
about it,
love
but
that choice. It's a
I
good one.
guess
good album.
again, this was discussed and I made mention that they are not here for me, and they're just they get catapulted for some reason. I don't know why. They wrote like some of the catchiest songs, but
Mhm.
they're not technical. They're not that Bohemian Rhapsody. Okay, you know, a couple others. Okay, but the ones that everybody just it's cheesy. It's cheesy.
I
Yeah,
We
know.
I
are the
mean, there's also
champions.
something
That's
to be said
anthem
for just.
cheese. You
But I
know,
mean, there's also
and
something to just be said for, you know, you don't have to like. I mean, John
Yeah.
Bonham, one of the best drummers ever. Like I would call him the
One
best.
of, one of.
Yeah, you think
One of.
I'm okay. Realize that I'm saying it like that so other people can pretend that there's better drummers
Okay, I give
and
you
not
that.
get at
All
me.
right.
Yeah, okay.
sometimes,
All
yeah,
right.
But he's not.
yes,
But he's not
whatever
the
we
most
are, we pretend.
technical guy. He's not the most technical. I mean, I would call Neil Peart more technical than him in a heartbeat.
That's
But he is still
probably
the
true.
best.
Yeah,
I
Yeah,
think
that's a good
there's
statement.
something to be
We are
said.
going to
it's true.
Yeah,
we are going to have
there's
that
something to be
conversation.
said for just fun.
Mhm.
Just
Certain drummers
none of
play
the
by the heart.
yeah
Yeah,
certain
yeah,
certain bands aren't good at any one thing, but combined, it's just like this synergy. And I think that's just kind of what it does it for Queen for most people.
Yeah,
yeah,
Because I mean,
yeah,
Queen's one of
yeah,
those bands that people my age know.
yeah. Well, it's like
there
everybody
you
took the
go.
stage
There's
and
something to
buried
be
it. You
said.
know.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Grateful Dude, your
Okay,
number
well,
three.
my number three is somebody I don't mention very much, but in my 20s, I saw 9 shows in 3 years of him. He was just blew me out of the water. In '74, this is his third album from Asylum Records. And he was in big trouble in a lot of ways with this one because the album before this, it cost way too much money and didn't bring that much bang bang back to the record company. So they made him do a 4 album set only, or four list
Song.
Or
song.
song set.
Who am I talking about? I'm talking
Right on.
about Jackson Brown, "Lay for
Mm.
the Sky."
Great record. Great
Yeah.
record.
Yeah, a fabulous record. I think a lot of people think there's better albums by him, but this was great. Only 4 tracks, all of them around 5 or almost
Mhm.
6 minutes. He did it at his recording story in his old recording studio at his parents' old home in San Francisco.
Oh,
All right.
So
I didn't know that.
Cool.
and he was under a lot of pressure, but it's really a good album.
So that's not the studio he had Stevie Ray Vaughan show up at, right?
I
No.
don't believe so.
No.
I don't
No?
believe so.
Because I remember
No,
like he
this
just said, come to my recording studio, and I wanted to take his parents' house because it was the day after Thanksgiving. He showed up and he's like, "Oh, yeah, that's right. I told you to come." And he showed up at the day after Thanksgiving.
well, maybe it was. I don't remember. I honestly don't have that information. But
It's okay. I
I
thought
do
maybe.
know it was his parents. I do know it was his parents' home in San Francisco. So
That is a good
That's
yeah,
cool.
if you guys like Brown, I fell out of love with him as he got more old, more mature. I just didn't. I
More
wasn't
mature.
into his writing as much as his first albums. His first
Yeah.
albums were in my book just crystal. They were excellent.
Yeah. Sure.
Well, I was just going to say my album review Saturday homework would be a lot easier if all 6 albums only had 4 songs, but I digress. Okay, so my number
We're working on it.
3 is actually the first 8-track that I broke because I played it so much. So and it's also what kind of, even before Led Zeppelin, got me interested in bluesy type music. Didn't know it at the time, couldn't have explained
Mhm.
it when I was that age, but it's Aerosmith, Get Your Wings. And I just love The Train Kept a Rolling. That song I played over and over and over again. That's probably why I broke that 8-track trying to make it go back to that song. And Same Old Song and Dance, that's one of their good ones. And then I got to see Aerosmith in concert, I think in 79. So it was about 5 years later. I wasn't allowed to go to concerts in 74. So that's my number 3, nostalgic reasons. It's obviously not my favorite Aerosmith album, but like I said, I picked my 4 out of what I want played at my funeral, maybe.
There you go.
We're gonna
I'm not
Maybe not
coming.
the same old song and dance. That probably one won't work, but yeah.
Well, people, they keep going to funerals. It's the same old song and dance. So
Yeah.
It's like you've done this before. Same old song and dance. You know what
sign
to
the
do,
book.
boys.
Go ahead, Jeff.
All right, so my number 3, another record that most people did not hear in 1974, but it came out in February, and it's now classified as a power pop classic. And it would be the second album by the great band from Memphis, Tennessee, Big Star,
Big Star.
and their
Excellent
album
band.
Radio City. And Alex Chilton, who was the leader of the Box Tops in the late 60s, formed Big Star with Chris Bell. Chris was on the first album that was titled Number One Record, and that's a power pop classic album as well.
Might be the number one.
And then in the middle of making this album, Chris Bell left and left Alex Chilton to continue it. But I'm like, this album's just in the annals of power pop records. It's up there. So that's my number 3.
Yep, it was on my list. I actually went back and listened to it again. I think Jeff, the Grateful Dude and I were talking. I was like, I gotta listen to Big Star again. Damn it! I just
I listened to it.
Yeah.
I listened to it last night. So
The song September Girls, it's been covered by, I think the Bangles did a cover version of that.
okay.
But that's a great song too.
Yeah, I maybe like you said, people in like that buy and do and they'll know, but a lot of people, I think power pop has a cult following and not like a national like following, right? It just seems to me like it's more niche than any other genre really. Besides the growling metalcore or whatever, but I'm always when I see somebody on a YouTube channel, something that's talking about power pop and they start listing out albums, I'm like, I never, that's like sort of obscure.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, it's me. Huh.
Yep.
it's you.
So concept records. If you'd have said to me that I'm going to make a concept record, it's going to be about a Puerto Rican kid who's going into the United States, or not even the United States. I don't know where he's going. It's just I would have been like, I ain't listening to that shit. I don't know. Well, how do I know about a Puerto Rican? How am I going to relate to this? Is it Cape Man by Paul Simon? No, because that came way later. Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Who'd have thought? I don't know how Peter Gabriel does what he does, but if Peter Gabriel says he wants to do something and you're sitting in the room, you just nod your head. Yes, go ahead. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. 1 lump or 2. I don't, how much money do you need? Yeah. So a little bit of story. He basically wrote everything and pissed the whole band off on this. First of all, I don't know whatever happened in there. I wasn't a fly in the room. I wasn't old enough to be a fly at all. So, but the fact of the matter is, one of the greatest disservices in the music multiverse is the treatment of Steve Hackett in that band. He is the better guitar player, hands down, and was sort of like underutilized, it seems to me.
Yeah.
Right. And it's no disrespect to Mr. Rutherford. It fit. they made music that filled stadiums. So kudos, but The
Yeah.
Lamb Lies Down on Broadway is a very unique experience. It is
Yeah, it
everybody
is.
on all cylinders. I wish Hackett was a little bit more involved, but he was
Mhm.
more involved in this than probably any of them, from what I hear in my ears, at least.
I agree.
And
Yeah.
he might be the busiest ex-Genesis guy ever. Hackett.
Oh yeah, he
'Cause he,
makes an
like,
album every 7
tours-
minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, and his live shows.
He's touring. He's playing on boats.
Yeah, he's
Yeah, I
great.
mean,
For what? What?
yeah, he does.
Like on
Like
cruise
he's
ship?
on Carnival tours, and he has shows. He's like the watery Vegas.
Get out.
I'm
But
telling you.
he's been at the Riviera Theater
Yeah, I
like
should have
twice in the
gone.
last
Yeah.
4
yeah.
years. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Wow.
I adore the record. There's some weird things going on, which is always nice too. Because when
Yes,
you're
there
doing prog,
is.
you better get
Mhm.
weird, because I think they took the weird out when Phil came along.
Yeah, they
a
did.
little bit. It got a little bit more darker in the mojo. But Phil, I did.
Yes.
They
We
didn't
love
lose.
Phil.
I'm sorry. There's no huge loss, I don't think, until that one album, and then it lost. But that's a story for another day.
Yeah.
Lamb Lies
Ooh,
Down on
yeah.
Broadway by Genesis, 74. Definitely one of the albums that out of all these, that I played and listened to the most. There's one coming up that I played more than that, which you can't believe, but that's true.
Oh, interesting.
So let's go to Everett now for his number 2. Are you muted?
You're
Am I
muted.
not muted? Am I
There you
muted?
go.
There
Now
you
you're
go.
on.
We can hear you now.
Cool. Good. Well, there goes 5 minutes of my speech done, but that's all right.
Yeah, that's all right. Just give us a name. We'll
That's
move on.
Okay. So the 2 albums that I have are 2 albums by the same person that came out in the same year. To me, they are not his best albums, but they are definitely the first 2. They're part of the first group of albums that really, where you start to see where it was going. And so for the first one, I am gonna pick Jimmy Buffett's A1A.
We knew you were
Okay.
good.
I mean, I'm
A1A.
sorry, none of you
Named
have
after a
picked
steak
it.
sauce?
Probably. I mean,
Okay.
this is probably his more. This one has more songs on it that are kind of what I would consider his big song.
Okay.
The,
Uh-oh.
the really big ones
Oh.
that, like, when you say Jimmy Buffett, they all go to like a group of like 10 songs,
Mhm.
and I love those songs. But in my opinion, he has so much better stuff. I'm like, I'll
Deep with
take
the
that
catalog.
over there. Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, it's got Pirate Looks at 40, which I mean
Oh, okay.
is
Yeah.
to ours family is a pretty big song. It's also got the song Life is Just a Tire Swing, which I have a thing where with Jimmy Buffett records where I love the live albums more than I love the in-studio ones. Just because there's so much more, like there's this very obvious like just chemistry between the people on
Energy.
stage and the there's this energy, exactly.
Energy. Yeah.
And it's just so much more.
Wow,
It's just
you're-
an absolute blast. Some of the songs, especially when it does it live. But I mean, this song has got like that. It's got Life is Just a Tire Swing, which is a good one. It's got Nautical Wheelers. I mean, it's just got a good variety that I find really just kind of nice.
Cool.
I can look at this album and go, I can sing along with like half of them, no problem. So for that, I am gonna give it number 2. And
Number 2.
number
All right.
1 is the other one, but
So
I
this is when you think about this is your Alanis Morissette kind of record. Okay. Because you can sing along to almost all of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Although I can't sing along to like any of Alanis Morris. I'm like, isn't it ironic? And then I like start mumbling.
And then you're done.
I'm like,
Too many words.
that's too many words. I'm like, no.
Graceful Dude, what's your number 2?
Well, I'm gonna make a kind of a repeat. Somebody already snapped it up, but it's my number 2, and there's a story behind why it's number 2 on me. We're going to Queen number 2, Queen,
Okay.
and I believe Mr. Everett already did that.
No, he
one.
did sheer
No.
Heart Attack.
Oh, he did. Okay, that's
Yeah.
even better.
Don't worry, I'm looking out for you.
He
Yeah.
decided the third was his, and you're taking number 2.
Yeah, well, I love this album, and why it's special to me, because memories are those kind of things, is that I saw Queen 3 nights in a row. One night, Friday in Los Angeles and at the Forum,
Okay.
Saturday at the Santa Barbara Auditorium, and Sunday at San Francisco at
Okay.
I can't remember the place. I had it in my mind. It just went by. But the story behind it is that 7 of us drove overnight from Los Angeles to San Francisco in a Volkswagen microbus.
I knew you were going to say
Okay.
that. This is so
Nice.
cliche. I love it.
Yeah, well, it was. Had the dead stickers all over, those kind of things.
Oh, I thought you said it was the Mystery Machine. I wasn't sure. You were hanging out with
Mystery
Scooby Doo.
And then we drove Saturday night to get to San Francisco for the Sunday show. I
Wow.
love this album. I listened to this
Good.
album a couple days ago, and I listened to it a couple of times a month. I love this album. It's one of my favorite because it's got the songs on it that never got a whole bunch of notoriety, at least in as the album, I believe it made #1, but it wasn't for long up there. But songs like Ogre's Battle and Nevermore and the March of the Black Queen, it's one of my favorite Queen songs ever. I just really, really like this album. It was completely off-put into their first album, and then their third album on up, they got more mature and their writing got more mature. But I believe this album is one of their best. That's just my.
It put them on the map from everything I read about it in the past, because I was not around at that point to know that. But everybody said this was like the one that everybody went, whoa, whoa.
Oh yeah,
whoa,
this
wait.
one got it got more airplay than I thought it would, especially with the songs. But they did a huge tour that they were doing, like 3 or 4 day in a row tours in different cities. And
Yeah, they were
so
banging
I'm
it
sure
out.
that was hard on the band. It was hard on me, but hey,
Yeah,
little,
you had to
little,
recover,
little,
huh? Yeah.
yeah, a little bit of drugs here and there help,
Yeah, there you go.
They get you through the night.
Pick
So,
me up.
Debbie,
All right.
Damn. What do you got at
Well,
2?
Okay, so I was just going to say, Everett, you have been saved from me being upset with you because you stole one of mine. But I'm not upset anymore because I waffled between the one that you had picked and the one that Chef Jeff just
Yeah,
picked.
figured.
So I picked as my #2 Queen Sheer Heart Attack. And the reason I picked that over Queen 2 is because I can say that Sheer Heart Attack, I know every single song. I was introduced to Queen from Queen 2, but Sheer Heart Attack was their album that made me just love them forever. And I didn't listen to it in 74, but when I started listening to, I think it was maybe around 78 or so that I really started getting into Queen. So I don't have much more to say about that other than now I don't feel like such a loser. I didn't steal somebody's idea. That's my #2.
Jeff, what do you got for number 2? I'm anxious.
So #2 and #1 are two of the greatest songwriters ever.
I know which one of them. I know one of them at least.
And we've mentioned a lot of people on this call have mentioned Asylum Records, which David Geffen, when he was managing artists in the 60s, decided to form his own label, and that's how Asylum was built, by him signing new artists like Jackson Browne and the Eagles.
Right.
However, when he signed Bob Dylan away from Columbia Records for this album I'm about to mention and the Live Before the Flood album that the Grateful Dude mentioned at the beginning. So my number 2 is Planet Waves. And he recorded that album with the band. After they recorded that, they went on a massive tour. And I think that tour started splitting the band up, unfortunately. I saw that tour. It was fabulous. And Forever Young's on this album.
Yeah.
And On a Night Like This is on that album.
Oh,
and
that's right.
and Planet Waves, you know, where it might in the annals of Bob, I wouldn't even put it in the top 10, but for this year, it's my second favorite album in the first quarter. The first quarter of the year.
First quarter.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
If
You
I was-
you
if
shaved
I
a
was
lot.
if I was doing the full year, it probably wouldn't, like the numbers 5, 4, 3, and 2 wouldn't even be in the top 5 for him. But
Right.
because I'm just centering on that part of the year where albums that fit 50, it's my number 2 right now for
Nice.
this first quarter. And it was his best album that he had made. Self Portrait came out in 1970, and it was a double album, and it shouldn't have been. And then
No, it's that filler.
and then Columbia put out a compilation record called Dylan in '73 that was just a contractual obligation record. And in the middle of that, he did the music for Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, which gave us Knocking on Heaven's Door.
Mhm.
So, but this record was the predecessor to maybe his best album ever. When after this and after he toured with the band, he went in the studio and recorded Blood on the Tracks, which came out almost a year after Planet Waves. So that's my number 2 for this quarter.
It is an album cover that doesn't look like 74. It kind of has an 80s look.
He did the artwork for it too.
Oh, okay. It looks very 80s. When I first looked at it, I went, oh yeah, I know, I remember. So my number 2, God, I played the hell out of this record. And you know, when you're a band and you're so apparently egotistical over the name of your band that your song is the name of your band, I guess that's you know, spreading it on a little thick. My number 2 is Bad Company's Bad Company.
Great album. Great album.
There were many a summer afternoon in my high school years with the driving around with my pals and the stereo blasting, you know, all that good stuff. And you know, it's not top-notch writing, but it's just so well put together. It's produced extremely well. All the notes are struck, and you know, it's got everything you want on it out of a rock album, pure, simple. And Bad Company till the day I die, apparently. Although there's one ahead of it, so
you can't get
All
enough
right.
of that album, right?
Yeah. Here we go. I love this. All right. I love it when people play along with me. This is good. This is Everett. What is your number 1, part 2 of number 2?
All right, so this is another one, and I just it's another one of those albums that I also like. It's got some good ones on. It's also Jimmy Buffett, and this to me is, I think, my more favorite of the 2, although they both are good and bad in their own ways. And that is Living and Dying in 3/4 time. You've got Come Monday, which is right up there with Margaritaville as his most famous song.
That might be someone's argument. That's
Right
you would know
there.
more than the rest of us.
Yeah, this is your wheelhouse.
Right there. It's close. But
Close.
I mean, it's got that one. So it's got it's got a famous one, but it's also got some like some fun ones that aren't as well known, like Ballad of Spider John, which I know is a cover.
Yeah.
But Fight Me, I still like his version.
Well,
It's got I was looking through the album a couple weeks ago, and I saw a song. Like I was looking, and I was like, "Oh, this album has an explicit rating? What for?" And I found the song was an explicit rating on, and I listened to it, and I was like, "Wow, that was really good." then that was what was it? West Nashville Grand Ballroom Gown. I mean,
Okay.
Just-
It was
they're all very-
explicit, not because of swearing, right?
yeah, it had one F in it.
Okay.
Oh,
But
Well, one
was
F
one-
does not a explicit rating make. It has.
I don't know. People shouldn't watch our show.
No fudge.
Yeah.
Lots of fudge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else?
So I mean, not
Good.
particularly. I mean,
Okay.
nothing that I could say that wouldn't result in me going on for another hour. So I'm just gonna stop it.
Yes. And
before it gets too
yeah,
Good
we can do
idea.
that. Yeah, it's a good idea.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks,
we're over
guys.
time.
I appreciate
Yeah.
you.
Great. Grateful dude.
Okay, well, this album, the reason it's number one is it's still this album is in my top 5 of albums ever. And I believe Jeff made a little segue to it earlier, but I am talking about Pretzel Logic by Steely Dan.
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw Steely Dan at this fairly small club in '74, and in LA, and I was working as a line cook 2 doors down from the studio that they recorded this in. So I love this. Some of the tracks are not great, but this album got notoriety because of the lead song, Ricky Don't Lose That Number.
Yeah.
If you lived
Which-
in LA or 74, this was on the radio every 3.5 minutes.
Oh, yeah, it was on
Yes,
the radio
they-
all the time.
This was a huge commercial success for this.
Yeah.
And it basically saved the band because their second album wasn't well liked at all. And then they came up with this, and they Ricky Don't Lose Your Number came up, and that boosted them up. They were safe for a while.
Mhm.
I've always liked this band. I like most of their albums. But Ricky Don't You Lose Your Number was the one that really most people recognize and stuff. But I love Pretzel Logic. In fact, I listened to it just when I woke up this morning, the song itself. But it was great. I really like this band. And I think
Was it-
that's it on this one.
Was the song Any Dude Can Tell You, was that named after you?
Absolutely.
It was.
I'm
But
glad I don't have to say everything.
I never was a dude till Alex put this
Dude.
Title on him. Yeah.
title on me.
That's funny.
I used to
you
be
know-
the only Jeff at one time, so
Yeah, the only Jeff. Yeah. So I have this question, and I don't know if it can be answers. I would assume that song, Ricky, Don't Lose My Number. I wouldn't think that the band wanted to write that song. It doesn't sound like them. It doesn't act like
it doesn't
them.
sound like them.
I
But
know.
At the time it did.
Did it? Okay, because that's
Yeah, it
I mean
did.
when I
It-
okay,
Absolutely.
so that's why I go to do you like Pretzel Logic or Aja?
well,
Aja is like you tune your stereo to that album.
I know.
Do you do that with Pretzel
I-
Logic?
well, Pretzel Logic is it's a little bubble
Different
gum.
band.
Yeah,
It was a different
exactly.
band.
It's
Okay.
a different band.
They
So
actually had
Fagan-
players on that, but by Asia, it was just Fagan and Brecker.
Okay. So yeah, because I knew somebody had left. Who left?
Denny Diaz was the guitar player.
Right.
He left. Yeah, I mean,
So he must have been the pop influence there, I guess, right? Is that what I'm assuming?
Well,
I don't know.
I'm trying to see who wrote it,
Was
but
Fagan really
so-
pop? He was never pop.
so you had
He
with
Early on,
Steely
I'd
Dan.
say it
The
was.
Yeah.
original Steely Dan was Donald Fagen, Walter Becker, Jeff Baxter, Denny Diaz, and Jim Holden.
Okay.
Hotter.
Okay.
And
'Cause
that was
yeah,
the
I just when I
original-
listen to Pretzel Logic, I I guess that I can't put myself in that era because I wasn't there. But when I, and that's the reason too. Again, I went backwards. I never listened to Pretzel Logic first, although I heard that song probably before I heard anything else. But I never
Oh, yeah.
assimilated that to the band Steely Dan. I
Well,
didn't.
you listen to Can't Buy a Thrill, and you hear, Reeling in the Years is a pop song, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. I gotcha. Makes a good point. Well, anyway, it was on my list too. But yeah, and I figured it'd come up. Sure.
Yeah.
Excellent choices again. Deb, you're number one.
Okay, well, since I'm the only female on this panel tonight, I thought I should represent not female artists, but every teenage girl in 1974.
I had a feeling I know where this is going.
And in my bedroom with my transistor radio, switching from 3 stations all night long to find this one song over and over and over again. It made tartan a fashion statement. The Bay City Rollers, SATURDAY, night.
Yeah,
Roland. That was my favorite
that was your jam.
album. That was my jam. It's nobody's gonna say this changed the world of music, but it did for me. And it was either that. The only other time that I wouldn't be looking for that is if the Sabres were on and I was waiting for Gilles Perreault to score a goal. So
Mhm.
that's my number one is the Bay City Rollers. And Everett, do you know who they are?
No,
I've heard of them.
really? Okay.
The name.
No,
What
he's
about-
lying.
No, he might have
called
been
them
on one of the
at
shows where you
time-
mentioned it before.
Did I mention it
Yeah.
before?
At the time, we called it bubblegum rock.
That's okay. I don't
Good-
care.
good-
I
good.
can still sing every
Well
note because it was
packaged.
only
Well
4.
packaged.
So there's that. Okay.
All right.
we-
Well,
I know it was kind of anticlimactic. I mean, listening to you converse over Steely Dan and all of this musical. I got the Bay City Rollers. Okay.
Hey.
So next week, Deb will be singing the whole album for us.
that's right.
It's the
Panelists
only
sing
song
their
I know,
favorites.
to tell you the truth. Okay.
And the Grateful Dude's gonna do Sticks.
Yes.
Yeah, Sticks.
I'll get the camera set up and I'll send it to you guys.
Nice.
Okay, good.
Nice.
Mhm.
Mr. Crichton, you're number one.
Okay. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna, the email you sent out about this,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna shoot out an email on the albums that have not been mentioned on
Okay.
this show. And I'm just gonna shoot the email out just to share what other great albums were out this.
Oh, there's a
this
huge
74.
number.
Well,
Perfect.
if you
Huge,
want, we're
huge,
gonna do a
huge.
couple of honorable mentions if you want to when we're done, because
But
I think there's a couple.
my number one album. This album featured musicians like Robbie Robertson, Wayne Perkins, Larry Carlton, Tom Scott, John Guerin on drums, Wilton Felder on bass, and Joe Sample on keys, both of them in the Jazz Crusaders.
Mm.
Jose Feliciano,
I only know
David
Feliz
Crosby, and Graham
Navidad.
Nash doing some harmonies, and even Cheech and Chong. And
And I was
it
confused earlier.
came
Now-
out at the beginning of the year. It was released on the 17th of January. And for me, no album touched that album the rest of the year. And
Big statement.
nothing came close. And it just carried the whole year out for me. It had great songs like Raised on Robbery, Free Man in Paris, Help Me. My favorite album is 74. It's a classic record by the great Joni Mitchell. Court and Spark
Ah,
is Mike. I believe when David Geffen signed her and Dylan to Asylum, that gave huge credibility to that label, and this was her second album for Asylum, and she recorded many wonderful albums for that label. Like her first album for the label was For the Roses. Her Hijira record that came out in '76 is a masterpiece as well. but Court and Spark, #1 album, 1974 for me, from beginning to end.
That's for me. That's my favorite album of hers for sure. When you said the two singer songwriters, I'm like, well, I know one's Dylan, and I'm pretty sure the other one's gonna be Joni.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Nice.
Joni
Nice.
kept bouncing up and down. She would have. So for me, I had known about this band. I had been playing this band, but I never went to this album. I don't know why. It was mentioned a couple of times in passing by other people, and probably one of the greatest fusion bands of all time. And that's the Mahavishnu Orchestra
Ooh,
and the album Apocalypse.
ah,
It
great record.
it is mind numbing. It is mind blowing. I don't know how they did. I mean, I thought the inner mountain flame was awesome. That's the one I
Yep.
played the living crap out of.
Yep.
And then I played it, and I'm like, what? How? You know, I think Billy Cobham's on it too, maybe. I mean,
Yes.
the musicianship on this is crazy. Billy Cobham had an album that year that's ridiculously good. And apparently when he was ridiculously good with his album, he went, oh, what are you guys doing? Oh, let's make another ridiculously good album over here. You know, it's kind of like the Robbie Robertsons and the Joni Mitchells and the Emmylou Harris. If they touch anything, if you do not know this album, if you know Mahavishnu Orchestra, this is their best album.
John McLaughlin's a genius.
Yeah, McLaughlin. Of course,
Yes.
I didn't think I had to mention him, but yeah, he's the leader of the pack basically. But yeah, no one he's the most emulated guitarist maybe in history. I mean, besides
But-
maybe blues guitarists, but
Another guy that graduated from Miles University.
Miles University. Yeah. You know, in that thing. So we'll do some honorable mentions if people want. But it's the funny thing is, you talk about Miles Davis. I mean, he had an album in that, and I didn't even. It was like, nah. His wife's album was actually more interesting.
Yep.
You know. Yeah.
Yep.
So, and apparently she's got Betty Davis eyes because she does. But anyway.
I have 3 honorable mentions. I'll mention real
Okay.
quick.
Wait a minute.
Nobody,
I can't even believe that Mark thought that was better than Eric Faulkner from the Bay City Rollers. Like, I'm not even, I gotta go. No.
Bad Company was right behind it. I mean, it's
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead,
ahead, Jeff.
dude. Go ahead, dude.
go ahead, dude. Okay, 3 albums that I really liked, and they all just didn't make the cut, but they were really close. Neil Young's On the Beach. Loved the
record.
album back then. It was great. And my introduction to reggae, Bob Marley and the
Oh, God.
Wailers, Natty
Yeah.
Dread.
Great
I
record.
almost
Yeah.
picked that one. Yeah.
Great,
yeah,
great
that's
album.
a good one. I love
What was
And
that
that.
album Shaka Khan
I-
did with somebody was really good too. Shaka
And then
Khan
my
did.
last,
Oh.
and I saw him that year, but a really, really strong album. Eric Clapton's 461 Ocean Boulevard.
Yeah.
Really, really good album. Really good album.
Yeah.
And those are my
Yeah, his
honorable
albums would be
mentions.
hard
I
to
could
rank.
go on for another half hour, but
Oh, and Jeff Crichton could take the whole next day.
yeah, I know.
With his scroll.
And I might throw in the album called
Bay City
Seven by Poco.
Oh.
Great
Oh,
album.
okay.
Great album.
Didn't even cross my mind.
Poco 7. A band
I
who
started
should
with
be in
Legacy. That's where I started.
a band who should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
World Hall of Fame. Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Does that mean Richard Marx would get in because he sang on one of the albums? Okay, anyway. So
Just very blatantly.
when I
right
talk-
now.
when I talked about rock and roll, Deep Purple, Burn, it's really good, but the production is just not good at all.
Terrible.
I just don't get it. But then you got Machine Head. Whoa, yeah, you know, such a good record, good songwriting. Even got a little prog in there too, and then Blue Oyster Cult. There's another
know.
rocker that
Yep.
Secret Treaty.
That was on
great
my
record,
list.
great record. Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
And
another
then-
good record. Another good
and-
record I really liked. It was my first getting new to this guy. Willie Nelson, Phases and Stages. Fabulous album by him. Fabulous album.
And if you want to go into like Prague, well, the Prague, I guess it is. King Crimson's Red.
Yep.
If you're a
Yes.
technical musician, there's probably nothing better than that. Mahavishnu in there, and then the one that no one will ever put on a list of their favorites, I don't think, except for like oddball technical electronica music. No, I don't like the record, but it's on I list. I'm like, you have to respect it. That's Autobahn by Kraftwerk. Without that, there's no electronica.
Yeah, that's
So,
true.
I mean, but
Yep.
That's the one to blame then.
yeah.
My gosh.
We
This is-
figured out who it
It's like
is.
74. How did they even, and then of
Yeah.
course, I Stanley Clarke, the Brown album is a jazz fusion, pretty good masterpiece in itself. So, I mean, there's plenty more in the.
Yep. Wow.
I gotta jump, you guys.
All
Yeah.
right.
All right. Good to see everyone. All
You
right.
too.
See you later,
Be well.
Jeff.
Okay. See you. Bye.
So what were your albums and favorites from 1974? You can let us know in the comments section. We'd love to hear them, talk about them, let you bloviate like we have over the last maybe almost an hour or more. Yeah, we've
have
got all
plenty.
kinds of stuff on the channel coming up. Obviously, tomorrow will be album review Saturday, and of course, Dam on the program. And she's ticked at me because I said there were 6 albums. I only gave her 5. So she's wondering, is he really going to try to give me one at the last minute? Sure, why not?
Mhm. Yep. I'm
So
up for the
go
challenge.
be. I'll thank the panel for joining us. It's a lot of fun as always. Panel's favorites, one of our favorites to do. So go
Yep.
beyond your radio with us, a real music appreciation channel. And until the next time, happy listening.
Bye.